Senator Johnson.
I just have a quick question, and I have not been down on the border with you, but that was one of the first trips I did make down to Nogales, and my impression was, first of all, inadequate fencing. I mean, I could not believe, and we didn't exactly have the high ground there either. But, you know, saw the beautiful port of entry that was being constructed, but certainly the input from the agents were, okay, we've got the infrastructure, we don't have the manpower. So just very quickly, to you in terms of your plan, you say you wanted close, you know, was it 3,400? Where are we at right now?
Our total staffing nationally is 21,775. That's the.
But in terms of port of entry, you were talking about a plan that you needed 3474. I can't remember the exact number. But
yeah, the numbers are very similar between Border Patrol agents and CBP officers. It's 21,370 for Border Patrol agents, 21,775 for CBP officers. So it'd be a significant increase, about 17–18% of our staff.
Okay, and that you think would actually accomplish the objective?
That would help us catch up with the tremendous growth in trade and travel and secure that in a much more effective and efficient way.
But so without percentages, just numbers, how many additional agents do we need in the actual ports of entry on the one hand, and then in terms of controlling the borders in between the ports of entry? Can you just give me just numbers? What do you think we need versus where we are today?
Versus where we are today, we need an increase of roughly 3,500 CBP officers.
Okay, total. And is that ports of entry?
That is for ports of entry.
And then what about in terms of in between the ports of entry?
Senator, a lot of that has to do with the amount of technology that's going to be online here in September. I'm sorry, in the spring and in the fall, both in terms of mobile video surveillance systems. We've got the integrated fixed towers coming online, scheduled for fall. We have replacements for the remote video surveillance systems on previous poles on the border. So a lot of that, once we start taking a look at getting that technology, then when we take a look at what is the response requirement going to be in terms of Border Patrol agents. So once we have that last lay down on the technology, we'll be able to assess where we have those Border Patrol agents. And the other piece, which is really critical, is the Deputy Commissioner mentioned the Border Patrol agent staffing right now is 21,370. What's more important than just whether that's the right number is, do we have those agents in the right locations given our risk assessment? And the answer to that is no. I want to be able to have the flexibility and mobility with those agents to move Border Patrol agents in areas that we have already identified as low risk. And I think given the measures in some of those areas like El Paso sector and Yuma sector, be able to move Border Patrol agents from one location to the other, which may not require an additional increase of 21,370, but a reevaluation of if we have those Border Patrol agents in the right location.
So why do you not have, you obviously don't have the flexibility now, why not?
For a couple of reasons. One is the move money that's required to move Border Patrol agents in mass. I'm talking hundreds of Border Patrol agents from one location to the other. It wasn't available in 13, and it doesn't look like at this point it's going to be available in 14. The other thing is...
So that's a resource issue as opposed to a policy issue.
Well, part of it's resource issue. The other piece too, because the vast majority of Border Patrol agents that I would want to move from one location to the other are part of the bargaining unit. So it would require bargaining unit negotiations. And the other piece also is that we just don't have the ability overnight to move wholesale all of those Border Patrol agents into those locations and maintain them in that location for a long period of time. These would be permanent moves as opposed to just a short 30 to 60-day temporary assignment, which we do currently.
Now, I certainly understand when I ask questions, you know, do you have enough resources and people need to defend budgets? I mean, I get that, but I'll still try again. Not in terms of dollars, but manpower. I'm just trying to get some sort of sense. If we've got in total 42,000 agents, what we're talking about, right? 21, need another 3,500 in the ports of entry. I mean, are we talking about just thousands of additional agents, or if we're going to really secure the border? I mean, again, realistically, because my concern is the American people have no faith that we'll ever secure the border. I'm just trying to get to the point, how many boots on the ground will it really take? I mean, is it going to be 42,000? Is it going to be 50,000? Is it going to be 100,000? And can you just give me some sort of ballpark sense and actually kind of give the American people a ballpark sense of what it's going to really take to finally, once and for all, and again, it's never going to be perfect, I understand, but basically get total operational control of the border. How many people will it take?
Senator, it's very difficult for me to answer that question directly because it really depends on what the What do you mean by truly securing the border and significantly securing the border? That's been, I think, a lot of the-
Where you'd be satisfied, where the American people would be satisfied, so we're not looking at another 10 million illegal immigrants 10 years down the road, or we're not going to be looking at another wave.
Right, but I'm going back to identifying what the end state's going to be. And there's basically, let me show you at least the pendulum in the discussion that I've been involved with over the last couple of years, having come back. One is those that, when they talk about securing the border, in their mind, right? And I'm not talking about committees, by the way. I'm talking about community members that I've talked to. I've talked to Border Patrol agents and trying to get an assessment to be able to implement the strategy and what the end state's going to be. There are those that would suggest that we have to 100% with certitude stop and prevent everybody coming across the border. If that is the end state, and that's people's minds of operational control or border security, I have no idea what the boots requirements are going to be and the technology requirement, not to mention the financial impact to be able to achieve that end state. And even if with unencumbered or unrestrained resources, even with certitude, it's going to be
How about with the goal laid out in this bill? You know, in terms of what we're talking about there. I mean, with that goal, how many people?
Right. My staff has actually been looking at trying to identify what the requirements are going to be under some of the draft legislation. Assuming that we look at a minimum 90% or greater in high-risk areas, and giving the flexibility to the Border Patrol and within CBP to reallocate those resources that we already have and to make sure that we optimize the capability that we have, whether it's technology in the air, whether it's the integration of all the technology, I would be at a better position to answer that question once that is done. But I don't have that answer right now, Senator, and quite frankly, I don't think it's just a matter of another 4,000 Border Patrol agents, and therefore, undefined, we would be able to achieve the end state.
Okay, I understand, but I appreciate you working with me on this one. Thank you,
Yes,
Mr.
Senator.
Chairman.